Hi, my name is Vikram Gupta, and welcome to PreSales Collective's Journey to PreSales. We will be listening to fascinating stories of SCs that made their journey into solutions engineering as a career. Our goal is to inspire you, because if they can do it, so can you.
Hello, Amber. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. How are you?
Good, thanks. Well, just to kind of get the audience going, my name is Brian Cotter. I oversee the SCs at Seismic, and working with a few people from the PreSales Collective, we wanted to get a better understanding of why people chose to become an SC, or did they actually fumble their way into it? So if you could introduce yourself, and then we'll kind of just kick things off.
Absolutely. I'm Amber Fallon. I'm proud to be sales engineer at Examity. I've been a sales engineer for almost 8 years now.
So I'm just going to kick off a little icebreaker, then some more in-depth questions, maybe give some people insight as far as what your journey was like. And then we're going to wrap things up with a little fun and a little rapid fire questions. So, the icebreaker is along the lines of, what is something fun that you love to do that you couldn't do in 2020?
I love to try new restaurants, and it was a lot more challenging in 2020. So I'm very excited to get out there and get all the new food.
So takeout wasn't offering the same experience, huh?
No, it's really different when you have that menu in front of you and they've got the nice specials board and you can see people around you trying something new. It's much more like collaborative.
That's a great skill as an SE to be aware of all the people around you. So that's really cool to hear. All right, so just kind of walking through a couple questions. As I just talked about, so many people stumble into this career. Just at a high level, tell us kind of about your story and how you ended up being an SE for 8 years now.
So I was tier 2 team lead at a tech company, and we went through a major acquisition, and there was a lot of realignment going on as a result of that. And right in the middle of that, the entire sales engineering team followed their leader to a new company. So they were kind of without sales engineering. And I had a really great relationship with the head of sales at that time. He came over to me and he's like, "Hey, you've really helped us out with a lot of escalations. Would you mind filling in and doing this for me, just until we find somebody permanent?" And it ended up being fantastic. It was the nexus of everything that I really enjoy. I get to problem solve. I get to, show people new ways of doing things and exciting ways of doing things. And I get yelled at a lot less. So basically the best of both worlds.
It's interesting how people see kind of characteristics or traits or personality, and then they go after that person. They can teach them the messaging and the product, but that's really cool. So I guess the next question is, what did you study in college that may or may not have prepared you for this career?
Criminology.
I was a political science major, so I kind of talk about I learned how to learn, which I think is really critical, and to understand different scenarios of different cases. Probably, you get to see a different chess match every day and apply learnings from the past. So that's awesome.
I'd say criminology gave me detail. Being very detail-oriented really helps me be a good sales engineer.
Yes, it's the nugget that gets you the win could be buried in a lot of different things. So that's a really good point. So when you first learned about pre-sales, when your manager came to you, what was your first impression of it? When he's like, "Oh, I need some help. This is what we need to do."
Well, I kind of hesitated on the sales end of things. I hadn't really been exposed to a sales organization before, so I kind of had that horrible used car salesman stereotype stuck in my head, and it was really kind of hard for me to get over that at first. I didn't want to carry a heavy quota. I wasn't about cold calling. These are not my skill set, so I was kind of hesitant. But once I really got into it and I learned that, there's a lot of benefits and that it's not just used car salesmen, that really opened up the world for me.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because, sometimes, when you have sales and engineer, it's almost an interesting dynamic that sometimes contradicts itself. But, when you kind of got situated, why was pre-sales a fit for you? What were the things you sat back and be like, "Oh, I'm home," or "This is the right fit"?
So I love to talk, as you can probably tell. I've always really loved an audience. I love to present, and I love to solve problems. I love to troubleshoot. I love to make things better. My goal in life is to leave every situation that I'm part of better than when I got there. And that's not always possible, but it's something that I strive for. So being a sales engineer really allows me to do that. I can come into situations, I can solve problems, I can find new ways of doing things, better ways of doing things, give people more time, give people better data, give people better products, whatever it is they're looking for, I can help them do it. And that's what really excites me. I get to talk, I get to have fun, I get to, present, I get to talk to a whole bunch of different people, learn about their backgrounds, learn about their challenges. So that's really exciting to me.
That's awesome. And there's so many different, attributes or characteristics kind of packed into that I do believe make, great sales engineers. So on that note, kind of like just stack ranking maybe the three, like what attributes do you think a great pre-sales person that actually makes them successful? Like if you were kind of talking to one of your potential partners or teammates.
Curiosity is the one that I'd put at the top of the list. In fact, I might actually give it the first 2 bullet points, because being curious, wanting to know more, wanting to dig into problems, that's really key to every good sales engineer I've known. They've always been the curious type. Maybe the type that took apart electronics as a kid just to see how they worked. That type of mindset really tends to help. Also, somebody who is good at talking, good at being a conversationalist. Sometimes there could be a lag, or maybe your salesperson drops off, maybe they're running late. Being able to just keep the conversation going on your own, that can be a really good skill to have. And being able to talk the tech. I would say that my personal best attribute as a sales engineer is I can take very complex concepts and explain them to a 5-year-old or to the head of IT. So that is a really good skill to have as well.
I've gone through question like a kindergartner, that natural curiosity. It comes across as being authentic, and you can layer in, and you're definitely understanding that you need to kind of take geek speak and translate it to layman's terms, and then business acumen, then back again to basically put it in front of your team saying this is the solution. So I think those are great attributes, and definitely things that when people hear this, I think that they can probably relate to it. Be like every single one question I ask when I'm interviewing is, what do you do when you're not being a sales engineer? And inevitably I rebuild cars, I rebuild houses, I model, or they do something complex that's creativity, and forces them to kind of, think outside the box. So I think that's really good. So, just as far as a high level, if someone is listening to this and they're not in pre-sales, but maybe you sparked their interest or intrigued them, what are some things that you would say or suggest for them to kind of do to prepare themselves for a potential career?
Sure. Joining the PreSales Collective is an awesome step. Everybody I talk to that's looking to get into this career, I suggest the PreSales Collective. There's a lot of really great resources and a lot of great networking there. Aside from that, if your organization has sales engineers, talk to them. Sit down with them at lunch, or see if you can shadow them, see what they're doing, just listen in on their calls. And if they don't have a sales engineer organization where you are now, maybe talk about starting one. Sit with the sales team, see what they do, see how they sell, how they position the product, even talking to the marketing team and talk about their value propositions and the messages they try to get across. Like you said earlier, building that story. Once you can tell a good story, tying the tech to it is really simple.
One of the key areas for this initiative is to really, advertise and highlight that this is a career. I'm an example other than 2 years of being a sales guy. I don't like to really highlight that to anybody, but it's really, you can build a career on. So the last question I have before we kind of get to the rapid fire, and please kind of take your time, because how has choosing a pre-sales career impacted your career journey? And what other doors and opportunities has it either opened, or do you see it potentially opening down the road?
Sure. So I'd never really considered or even knew about pre-sales before I became a sales engineer, and it has opened so many doors. I am so much happier, so much less stressed out now that I'm not dealing with complex escalations and angry customers all the time. So that's been really great. And I've known so many sales engineers who've gone on to really cool things: product development, design. I know a couple that have gone on to marketing careers, and one who's now the director of their own pre-sales organization. So there's a lot of different doors. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to end up, but I hope that management is my eventual career progression path. I think that that's where I'd like to go. I think I'm a pretty good sales engineer, and I'd like to help some other sales engineers grow and become, good sales engineers themselves.
Yeah, that's, I believe that, and I explained to my team that, sales engineers sit in the middle of the hub and the wheel, and we have spokes out to all sorts of other departments. And you go to some organizations, and some are perfectly working bidirectional, and some are splintered, some are shattered, and some you got to rebuild from scratch. But what it does do is give you all of the alignment that you need to do your job, but it also opens up yourself to so many different career paths that might be of interest to you. And along my career, to your point, friends of mine are now CEOs or founders of companies, or some have gone into sales, or now CROs or marketing, or even product managers. So I love the training ground that the pre-sales team gets, because it opens up so many different doors you may or may not follow, but you'll understand how they all work. So we're just kind of wrapping things up. 3 rapid fire questions. What do you wish you knew before you became a pre-sales engineer?
Sales methodology. So reading books like The Challenger Sale or Say What, or even the Sandler Method would really help sort of get that into my head earlier. I was actually about a year into my sales engineering career before I picked up my first sales methodology book and really sort of figured out where I fit into that process. So knowing that a little earlier on, I think would definitely have accelerated my growth.
So just digging into that, because that's a great point. If you knew about that kind of coming into it, what would have changed that first year? Like, how would that have helped you?
I would have been more strategic, and I think I could have been more of a supportive ally to the sales team instead of hopping on and doing the demos and, diving in on where I felt like I belonged. I could have been more strategic in asking the right questions to get to who is my champion, what are their pain points, learning that information that's really vital to the success of the sale, and how to help draw that out and become a real valued member of the sales team is definitely something I take great pride in now.
I love that. When I started years ago, sales engineers or whatever term of the day you wanted to use, they were basically connected to the demo, and that's what they were leveraged for. And now, sales engineers are strategic partners that are the chief storytellers to actually visually articulate the problem you're going to solve in what the future would look like for that buyer. So I love that answer. So going to the second one, describe yourself in 3 words.
Creative, curious, and hungry.
Yep, love the last one. And then the last one, where do you want to retire after your pre-sales career?
Massachusetts. Massachusetts is my home. I've been all over the country. I'm actually a military brat, and there's nothing like fall in New England. We have the best local ice cream, the best lobster rolls. Massachusetts is where it's at.
So what's the one sentence piece of advice that you would give to a high schooler or a college person coming out that may want to explore the pre-sales role?
Get your hands on everything you can. Read Great Demo by Peter Cohan is a great book. Modern Software Sales Engineering by Gregory Hansen is also a fantastic book. To just get your feet wet and understand the concepts and the things that make a sales engineer, or a solutions consultant, solutions architect, all the other terms that encompass pre-sales. So read, learn, interact, and try to get all of the information that you can.
Well, Amber, thank you very much. I really appreciated the time. Loved learning about your journey. And hopefully, as we pump out a bunch of these, people will be able to see these and inspire them to explore the pre-sales role. So I am going to sign off right now and just say thank you very much and appreciate your time.
Thank you.